What's going on, everyone? Nick Filato, a Big Blue View here to break down redshirt sophomore from Mississippi State, Charles Cross. There's going to be a lot of differing opinions on a player like Cross. He's very athletic, incredibly fluid, has great length. He also does well with his hand technique once an engagement is established, but he doesn't always maximize his length. He's much more of a catching type of blocker than a striking one, which allows defenders to dictate plays, and I question the overall power in his game. We'll go through all that on a bunch of plays here, so let's get into it. As I said, there's a lot to like about Charles Cross in terms of his athletic profile and his frame. He's very, very long, has excellent foot speed. He can flip his hips and locate. He can do so many different things that other prospects just can't do because of the raw athletic ability that he possesses. But let's start with his stance right here real quick. Look at this. This is Charles Cross. He's number 67. That is an incredibly narrow stance. That is not an ideal position to be pre-snap. And that's also going to lead to a larger first step, which we're going to see. And through these first couple plays, you're going to see a lot of the athletic ability on display and a lot of, I guess you could say, some of the positives that we can discuss about Charles Cross. Let's kind of get into it. Here we are, first play against 15, a smaller defender for Alabama. Now, he covers ground pretty well. He can get up the arc, he can mirror, and I like that hand placement. Now, 15 doesn't go for the strike, he goes for a speed rush. You'll see kind of the issues that Cross has with striking a little bit later. But he gets up the arc, makes his hands wide, but he does that because he's anticipating that speed rush. We have number 15 kind of going for an inside swap move of Cross's outside arm to soften the angle to the quarterback. But Cross is just going to cut him in half. He cuts him in half right here. Look, he catches him with that inside arm right on the lower, the small of the back right there. Then he uses that outside arm to kind of split and divide this defender who's trying to win the half-man relationship, but Cross is not going to allow that. He's just going to mirror, ride him up the arc, reposition himself, and that's a good rep right there from Charles Cross. It's solid. Gets his hips committed, and then just turns, and then ends up being a sack, but that's not on Cross. And then we have Cross right here against DeMarvin Leal, potential first-round pick out of Texas A&M, a little bit more of a 4-3 even front type of 3 technique, but he played a lot of edge, 5 techniques wide for Texas A&M's multiple type of defense. And we'll see something similar. Now Leal tries to go for a long arm to establish contact on the inside shoulder of Charles Cross here. And Charles Cross, as Charles Cross typically tends to be, is patient, but patience is a virtue, but sometimes it can get you in trouble. Here it doesn't necessarily, but you can see how Leal positions himself advantageously to kind of break the wrist, that up arm wrist of Charles Cross. Thing is, Leal just couldn't bend that corner because he probably doesn't have the lower body flexion. And then also, you can see how Charles Cross does a great job just kind of flipping his hips right there. Nothing too special, but flips his hips and then repositions his hands in hand fights. So you can see kind of right there, you see how Leal's about to land that swat of the outside arm. And there's Cross's arm. It dips down. And a lot of times you see really fluid type of defenders. I'm not saying Leal is not that, but he's more traditionally a defensive tackle rather than an edge. Can bend through the contact, kind of get into that outside shoulder of Cross, and then get into the pocket. But Cross flips his hips. You can see how he redirects all of his weight and shifts it onto that outside foot and then gets that outside arm back onto the chest of Leal while also bringing that inside arm onto the hip. And that's something I feel like Cross does a really good job at, is repositioning his hands once contact is initiated. Unfortunately, it's typically initiated by the defender. See what happens here against Kentucky. He's going up against a 4-eye shade. So, blocking a 4-eye shade, you're not necessarily worried about being beat by a soft angle like a wide 9 defender because he's inside here. So you got to pay attention to that B gap, especially when there is a nose tackle who can slant inside. And that's something that Kentucky was doing that entire game. They were slanting the nose tackle inside to occupy the guard and creating a dilemma, I guess you could say, for the tackle if he were to kick out into space. So you can see how he pays attention, takes that step into the B gap, realizes that Pascal's not going in that direction, strikes high. Pascal tries to bend through, but Cross just kind of gets his hand on the small of the back, splits the defender, and then rides him up the arc. Because Cross is excellent at mirroring and matching defenders up the arc. He has great feet in those types of situations. Now, again, against Leal. And this I put on there primarily because it shows the hip fluidity. So what do we have here? We are going to have an exotic blitz from Texas A&M. Number 32 is occupying the A gap. So this guard is going to have to pay attention to him. Cross is aware of that. You have a potential blitzer right here, and you also have number 1 who looks like he could be blitzing. But Cross knows he's going to have the running back who's going to come over and help in protection to pick up one of these extra defenders. But as we'll see, Leal goes inside. Cross, once Leal goes inside, does not know if 32 is coming or not, so he has to account for the B gap and go with Leal. But then Texas A&M also brings number 1. So what do you have? A 2 versus 1 on this running back in protection. And what I love from Cross here is Cross, he's occupied with Leal here. He knows Leal's there, but then he sees the guard is there. 32 must have bailed out into coverage, and that's exactly what happened. But watch how he flips his hips and has the mental processing to be aware to know that 1 is coming on the blitz, just to get enough of him right there. And that's impressive. It's a little nuanced, but you can see how that happens. Leal's going inside. I know this team brings exotic pressure packages like that, and I have the hip fluidity to just turn and locate. Pass gets off completion. As I mentioned earlier, Cross is a very patient offensive tackle. Now that can definitely hinder him in certain situations, which we'll see throughout this video, but at the same time it also allows him to kind of bait defenders and edge rushers and kind of get them to react first, and then he can use his hand technique to gain their chest, use his grip strength, which is pretty darn strong, to be honest, and his aiming points are also pretty solid as well in those situations. He likes to take that inside arm and then locate either the right underneath the armpit and the breastplate or that hip, and then takes that outside arm, goes for the upper bicep and near the shoulder. And sometimes he holds, which we'll see a little bit here, but doesn't always get called for it. Now watch. It's against Michael Clemens of Texas A&M. He's a pretty talented pass rusher, probably be a day 3 pick, little high cut in the hips, had some issues off the field as well, but still he was productive in the SEC. We see Charles Cross right here, and you can watch. Cross is patient with his arms. He's getting into his pass set right there. Again, that don't love the narrow base. Kind of kicks out a little bit. Has to angle his hips and open his hips a little bit early there, as you can see. But watch. He anticipates. He's about to bring that outside arm up, but he sees that Clemens is going for that violent rip move, so he just allows him to kind of come tight with it and then goes around Clemens. Now, that's not great aiming points because you don't want your hand on the outside shoulder there, but he gets that inside arm into the chest and then just kind of sits back on his hips and anchors down. Now, that's because of patience right there. I don't like how Cross does not punch, man. I wish he punched more. You just don't see it. It's kind of wild. You just don't see it. Much more of a catcher, like I said. But he's still able. Even though the pass rusher gets into his chest, he just pulls him tight right there. Doesn't get flagged. And we see here he's going up against Ole Miss, and he's going up against a 4-eye technique. And you can see that same aiming point. You don't love that. I've seen it much crisper on film. But he gets to the outside portion of it, slides up, inside arm, gets fought off, but he's still able to just kind of mirror with him up the arc a little bit. Now that I don't love. That could be a hold, to be honest. But it wasn't flagged on this play. But it is no shock that he had 9 penalties in college, because he does get grabby. And that's another issue that I have with Charles Cross. 4-eye again against Alabama. And you love how he resets here. So you can see how he takes doesn't know exactly what he's doing. The pass rusher, he's trying to anticipate it. He finally figures it out. His footwork is a little jumbled, but he goes to punch and locate that outside shoulder, as we've seen so many times. 18 anticipates it well, knocks it off. So what does Charles Cross do in this situation? He's able to reposition himself, sit back on his hips, re-anchor himself. Good bend right here, look. Good bend in the waist, good bend in the knees, good ankle flexion. And then he goes to land that punch again, and he waits for help, because he knew he was going to have help coming here. But I love how you could see what he does with his inside arm. Doesn't work. Tries to touch on the inside shoulder, doesn't work. Brings it right back around and puts it right underneath the chest. It's the hand fighting. It's the constant readjustment to find a way to gain control. There we see it again. Now, in this play, you have an odd front. You're not sure if Christian Harris is going to be coming. So he keeps that inside arm open to see. Realizes he's not. Sees the outside release from the defensive lineman. Tries to go for that grab, and it gets anticipated. And comes right back up once it gets kind of thrown down by the defender. Then again, gets his inside arm in position. Establishes position. Sits back on his hips. Does a little hop step there. Kind of anchor down, re-anchor down, re-anchor down. This quarterback gets the football off. Now, we have this against Ole Miss. This is a pretty wild play, to be honest. It's like a wild adjustment by Cross. Excellent anticipation to be real. Now watch what he does here. He sees that he has somebody on his outside shoulder, a little bit wide of him. So he sets, and he's just so patient. He waits for this edge rusher to take that outside arm and try to do something and knock this arm down. And watch how he just judos that right around. No. That's excellent timing right there. He brings that inside arm right into the chest as well. And the guy continues to fight him up the arc. I mean, good job by this guy. But Cross just stays in front of him, kind of washes him up the arc. But I just thought that ability right here with his hand technique to anticipate that punch, know it's coming, and then allow him to swing and miss, get his equilibrium all screwed up, and then come and attack that outside shoulder. It's a solid decision by Charles Cross. We'll see something similar here. This edge rusher from Kentucky gains the depth. Don't like how 13, just stabs him right there with his inside arm. Again, Charles Cross just never dictates the rep right off the snap with his length, which is something I feel like he can do. So right there, now he's trying to grab right there. You don't love this, right, from Charles Cross. He's trying to get his hands in the optimal positions, a small to back, split in the front, like we saw a little bit earlier in the video, and he can't initially. So he just kind of sits back, gains his depth right there. But then right here, he takes his arm and just kind of breaks that wrist a little bit. And that's enough to kind of allow him to slide around. You don't like how he slides around, but you can see how the balance gets thrown off once Charles Cross does that to his forearm, because 13 is leaning. He's leaning into Charles Cross right here. Charles Cross is strong. He's holding his anchor up. Let me just remove that. Double swipe your hands downward. Here we got him right here against DeMarvin Leal. And again, there's another reason why patience kind of works in his favor, is he's not going to overreact to the spin move. He's just going to wait, just reset himself. Leal does a good job right there, kind of getting his hand on the football. Gets that arm right on that outside shoulder. Resets after the spin, because you can see he punches right here. The spin happens, and look where Charles Cross's arm is. It's on the inside spin shoulder. But then he just kind of brings it right back around, doesn't panic, gets it right on the front side of that shoulder, and then just anchors down. Good play by Leal to get the tip. Right here, this is he's going up against 4-eye, number 7 right here. I like this play because Charles Cross, he drops down to the B gap. Doesn't necessarily have a threat here. 44 is dropping into coverage. So he punches with that inside arm, something we don't see too often. So now you see him using his length, right? And then you can kind of see he has the thumb upward. Everything is right technically from that standpoint. It also has good build right here, nice angular build. But you can see how he kind of grabs the chest of number 7 and then pulls him inside, knowing that he has help right here, and just kind of drags him right over to the guard who can help him. Just going to pull you here, and boom. I just thought that was a neat little play from Cross. Cross is somewhat of a more passive type of offensive tackle, and what I mean by that is as we said, he allows things to kind of come to him. In order to be like that, you need to have a good anchor, and I believe his anchor is solid. Now, one thing I will say, and we'll see this throughout the video, he kind of gives up initial pop sometimes, which I don't love. He can get backed up, but he usually does a really good job kind of sitting back on his hips and readjusting himself, has really good lower body flexion, excellent flexion in his ankles, which allow him to do so, and his strength is solid in this area. I wouldn't say it's the strongest part of his game, but it's something that isn't a huge hindrance either. We'll see it here. He's going up against a defensive lineman in Alabama. I don't love how he's late right there. He allows 47 right into his chest. They're face mask to face mask right there. He's a little bit higher than 47. You don't love that. Hands are wide. He's tonging. Don't love that. But I do like how he can just kind of walk back and sit back on his anchor. And yes, he's getting walked back. It's not overly desirable, but look at the bend in those ankles right there. He can bend his ankles, stay on the balls of his feet, and you can see how his hips are kind of uncoiled and his back is arched. And that's a good position right there. Now, I don't love how his hands are not locking him out, and the defender is definitely controlling the rep from that standpoint, but you can see the strength and the anchoring ability and his ability to sit back on his hips. Gets pushed back a little bit, but he doesn't allow the defender to break the grip of Charles Cross. And now against Ole Miss. Does the same, ends up getting help here. But you can see how this defender kind of gives him a little shimmy. Cross is unsure what to do with his feet, and he gets caught here. I'll watch what he does with his inside foot after the shimmy. You can see how just that's not fluid at all right there. He's a little confused. And that's not a great position to be in right here. This foot's not on the ground, but he's still able to plant that foot. He's incredibly high. Center of gravity is high, but he still brings this pass rusher into his face mask and then resets himself and recenters himself until help can come. And I don't think the help really necessarily did much. I think Cross had the defender at this point, but that's some sort of recovery ability. And there's some crazy recovery snaps that I saw throughout his film that are intriguing, but he has to recover from something, which means he was put into a disadvantageous situation. Now we have Charles Cross right here against A&M. Sits back on his anchor. Gives up a little bit on the inside there, which you don't love. This is against Leal again, and also you don't love that. He typically explodes low to high with his hands, but watch. Leal's inside. And Leal's inside right here. Look where Cross's hands are. They're late. Again, being overly patient. And you could see the build and the force that Leal has moving forward right here. I mean, that's a good forward lean into a pass rush. Gets those hands established. Cross sits back, hop step, and then he gives up kind of the inside there. It's not the worst rep you'll ever see, but that's not a perfect rep by any means either. Got Cross over here. 4 technique. You like to see that, right? Cross shoots his hands. Doesn't get the initial contact. It doesn't look like. It's kind of hard to see because Cross has a wide frame. You can see how the Ole Miss player is just about to land this hand. You can see it right there. Both these hands are wide, late. Cross stands up, has really good core strength, raises the center of gravity of this defender, and then once the defender tries to separate by throwing Cross's hands down, Cross just imposes his strength on him and kind of snatches him down towards the ground. Here are some reps where Cross shows anchoring ability, but he's putting himself into an unnecessary situation because he's exposing his chest and allowing defenders to, as we said earlier, dictate the reps and conceding some ground to the defenders. Here he's going up right here against Michael Clemens. And you can see how Clemens just kind of backs him up. And good on Cross to not just get steamrolled here. But when do you ever want to see your offensive tackle in this type of situation where the defender lowers his hat, gets both his hands inside, and he has this type of forward lean to drive right through your offensive tackle who doesn't even have his outside foot placed and his hands are wide again? And you can see how Cross goes to hug, basically. And that's not something you like. You can see Cross is fully extended right here. How is he going to generate any kind of power through his hips? But this is where it's somewhat impressive, I'll say. He is still, despite being in such a poor position, technically, able to lower that butt and then re-sink and then recoil his hips to get that desired bend right there in his lower back. Then hop step a little bit, force Clemens to realize I can't power through this individual. Let me try to go around the edge, and by that time it's way too late and the pass is thrown to a receiver. Undesirable situation. Good job recovering, but that initial pop is something that causes alarm. You can see right here against, not Michael Clemens, but I believe that's Tyree Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. And again, he gets a little bit of push, but not as much, I would say, as Clemens did. You can see how Cross kind of gets up into his pass rushing set. Punch is kind of wild. He tried to kind of go around like we saw earlier in the video, gets a little high, but then he's able to kind of just pull Johnson into his frame, and holding was not called. It wasn't really a hold, it was more of a pull, but not a perfect rep technically. Here against Ole Miss, you don't love when you see a defensive lineman have full control of your offensive tackle's chest. And this is a 4-eye shade right here. He's going to slant inside, kind of keep Charles Cross honest, and he's going to hit Cross with a club on the outside shoulder. And you can see how Cross is able to kind of get that inside hand underneath the armpit. That's solid. But look at both of 95's hands. Right on the mid part of the shoulder pads of Charles Cross, and then on the outside part. And you can see how 95 is kind of controlling him a little bit. And Cross is struggling. He's getting pushed back a little bit. He's trying to refine his hands. He has to refit. And I like the fact that he always, and this is something that speaks to Cross's skill set, he always is trying to refit his hands into a position that is going to optimize his ability to win the rep. He tries to go underneath, but look at that control by 95 right there. Now, nothing necessarily happened here, but that's not a great position to be in. And luckily, he was here as well to assist Charles Cross. I don't think Cross was going to allow that pass rusher to separate. Again, speaking to Cross's very impressive grip strength, but that's still not a great position to find yourself in. Here you see Cross kind of get bumped back here against number 7 from Ole Miss. And then 57 kind of comes over, looks for work, hits that near side hip of 7 and kind of stops him in his tracks. But you can see how Cross kind of gets popped a little bit, has to kind of really rely on falling back on his hips. And Cross does a good job there, but if 57 wasn't there, would Cross have been able to do that? Now, probably, but still, you can see the initial pop. We see him against number 7 again here. 7 uses a stutter step. Am I going to go with speed? Am I going to go with power? Am I going to go inside? What exactly is going to happen? Cross is anticipating it, and he goes wide with his hands, and that allows number 7 to kind of time up this punch really well, gets inside, crosses late with his hands, kind of gets backed up a little bit. Guard is there to bail him out once again. Not egregious, but it just speaks to some of the deficiencies that we've been going over. And speaking of other deficiencies, here we're going to see Cross beat inside on a few different plays. Now, I think it's important to note on a lot of these plays, he's going up against an odd front, typically an eagle front. Now, odd front means there's going to be a nose tackle, so you're going to have this player right here playing directly over the center. He's not going to be shaded in a one technique position, and then you're going to have 2 other players on the line of scrimmage. Then eagle front would be if they're both 4 eyes on the line of scrimmage. And you can see right here, he's basically dealing with a 4-eye, a little bit more of a 4 technique, but you can't see because of this yellow pole that is in the way. So why that is important is it's realistic that he could be expecting help from the left guard in a lot of these situations, but he doesn't get it because of the path, and this is coordinated by the defense, because of the path of the nose tackle goes towards the left guard. And I'm not 100% certain how Mississippi State coaches this protection up, so I just thought it was necessary to acknowledge that. But at the same time, you don't want to see your tackle getting consistently beat inside. We saw Andrew Thomas struggle with that a lot in year 1. He corrected it, but let's go through these plays and let's see how many times that happens. So here we'll see it, because the 4 technique looks like he's going outside, and you can't see it here, but he lands that inside arm right on the inside shoulder and is able to break into the pocket, which allows the nose tackle to come off the double team block of the guard. I'm not certain if Cross said, I'm going to sit inside because I know I have my buddy right here to help me out, but he's not there because he has to occupy the slanting nose tackle in that situation. We'll see something similar. Not on this play, because this play, look, he might think he has help, because you can see how this nose tackle is slanting in that direction again, but this is also on Cross. Cross sets, and Cross does not anticipate the club swim move right here. This is a good move right here by a pretty talented Kentucky pass rusher. Club, swim, and I mean the pressure comes from the other side. But you can see he's beat inside there. And he got beat cleanly too. Now here, this is against Ole Miss, so a different team. You have an odd front, you have a guy right over the center. 58 is there. Now Cross has to set a little bit wide. He commits his hip far too early and gives up that inside alley. And credit to Cross, I want to watch that one more time. Credit to Cross for the hustle and the effort here to recover. But look, He's both his feet going this way with his upper body going that way. Not ideal. If you know you have help on the other side or not, that's not something you want to see. And this is a good pass rushing move to kind of slant inside and then attack the inside shoulder of Cross. And you can see that bend from Cross and that hip movement. I mean, that's impressive, but he's already beat at this point, and he has to hold, and he does. He gives a little bit of tug there. You can see the yellow laundry, and this is something that Cross does. He gets a little bit grabby, and especially when he's beat like this. So not a good rep from Charles Cross right here, but still impressive athletic ability to kind of keep up with the pass rusher. Here's that pass rusher again. Again, he's beat right here. Even if he knows he has help or not, sloppy technique. He goes for a double punch. Something we don't see too often, but he does this because the space that he has between himself and Cross, and he sees that. You can also see just how close together his feet get to. The pass rusher is going for that long arm move, right? He's going for that long arm move. So Cross kind of wants to dictate the rep here. But really good play by number 7. He gets his hand on the inside shoulder of Cross and kind of just throws him to the side while swimming over the top. And if the guard's not there, this could have been a sack. Again, Cross might know he has guard help, but still, when do you ever want to see this? That's sloppy right there. It's not what you want to see from a possible top 5 type of tackle. And again, look, his hips are committing way too early there. Good play, though, by the wide receiver and the Mississippi State quarterback. So again, he's getting beat by power right there. I mean, this pass rusher right here has some power in that long arm move. That's typically a power type of pass rushing move. You can see how he stabs, and you can see how he jolts him back right there. Opens up the inside and gives up an inside angle. I guess you could say good on Cross to kind of get this foot in the ground. Again, look at that bend. Very, very impressive. And then kind of explode off that foot somehow to kind of get him back into the pocket just long enough for the quarterback to release the football. But you're getting beat inside right here, Charles Cross. You don't want to see that. One more time. 1, 2. Wide hands, slow developing hands, allows for the initial contact on 7. 7 drives back, jolts, power, fault on the anchor. Totally turns Charles Cross outside, providing the inside alley. Not ideal. He struggled in this Ole Miss game against this specific player, as you'll continue to see. Now, this recovery right here is kind of wild, if we're going to be real, though. Watch this recovery. He's beat inside, again, late hands, wide hands. But watch this. Cross almost gets tossed. Somehow he's able to reposition himself in front of 7. This is not a good rep from Charles Cross, but that recovery is just ridiculous. Look at what number 7 does to this guy. I'm going to take you and I'm going to throw you to the ground. Ew. Just disgusting, sloppy technique, but somehow Cross is able to put enough weight on this inside foot, then land that outside foot while transitioning and keeping his hips in front of number 7 to keep up with him and allow the quarterback to throw the ball away instead of just getting killed. Again, you don't want to see your tackle beat that badly, but that was a wildly unorthodox and impressive, I guess you could even say, recovery from an athletic standpoint. Here the pass rusher just kind of slants inside. Cross does a solid job kind of riding him inside and not letting him really disrupt the play. He does a solid job opening his hips right there, takes that inside arm, lands it near the hip, takes that outside arm small to the back. All right, I'm just going to wash you down right there. Here we'll see 3 plays of Charles Cross getting beat around the edge. It's not something that happens too often, but there are times where he doesn't take the necessary pass set, or he has a false step, which is something I saw a little bit more in the run game. We'll see these next 2 plays are consecutive plays, which is concerning, to be honest. It's not something that I loved to see on film against Texas A&M. Tyree Johnson right here, he gets beat around the edge. You can see hips committed too early, and he's allowing Tyree Johnson to kind of use a speed move to kind of bend through the edge, and he lunges. This is something that he doesn't do often. He's a very balanced and controlled tackle, but right here, he's forced to lunge. He can't get his punch to land. Johnson does a good job kind of keeping his path up the arc and not committing into the pocket too early. He relied on his outside arm to really kind of break the wrist of Charles Cross, as you can see right there. He's continuing to break the wrist, and once he does that, he knows he has Cross in a vulnerable position. So you can see how Johnson kind of bends through his lower half, showing really good bend and speed to kind of corner and get his hips into the pocket to force one of his teammates to get a sack. Now the very next play is this one right here. Now Johnson just times this up just fantastically, to be honest. He's somebody I wish was a little bit better against the run. I think he's going to be a probably early day 3 pick, the kid from Texas A&M, Tyree Johnson, but he's somebody who can be a pass rushing specialist. You can see how Cross, man, he takes a lateral step. He tries to like jump set him right here instead of kind of gaining depth and cutting off that angle, and he just absolutely beats him. If you know you don't have the running back in protection there, why would you take that kind of angle? That's just a bad mistake by Charles Cross. There's no way he's going to be able to kick out there and get his 2 steps if this is timed up well, and that's exactly what happens. So there was no depth. He's beat. Johnson gets the sack, and also, I believe, Cross took a holding there, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you can see how he kind of holds with his near arm, pulls Johnson to the ground. Still, really nice play right there. And then this was another one against Alabama. It's a stutter right there from Alabama. And Cross is just, he's not certain if he's going to get power rushed or speed rushed here. Something that every offensive lineman has to think about during every single play. Is what exactly is coming at me. See, it looks like he's anticipating power, sitting back on his anchor, and then 15 does a great job keeping him guessing. 15 doesn't engage. He's patient. He kind of out-patients Cross. And then he gets to the edge. Gets Cross completely turned. It's not a great position to be in right there if you're an offensive tackle, where the inside arm of the pass rusher is splitting you in half and there's a wide open alley into the pocket. Credit to Cross to get that hip completely flipped and then land that outside arm on the midline of the Alabama pass rusher. But still, not ideal. Now, this is going to be a lot of plays, though, where you're going to see Charles Cross generally doing a good job handling stunts. So we have him right there, number 67. See how he goes in there, and I liked this play because I'm not 100% certain if it was communicated by the guard or what exactly happened. You have a wide rusher, and you're going to have a linebacker coming on a delayed stunt around the edge. But watch how Cross kind of takes that defender and then puts him in the path of number 44 right there. I don't know if it was deliberate, but if it was, that's just a smart move to be like, all right, I'm just going to kind of cut his angle off too, take this number 7, somebody I've been struggling with all game, and then ride him into his path to allow my quarterback to throw the football. Here we go right here. Just really kind of anticipates it really well. Once he sees the edge rusher kind of go through that B gap, he's always shooting his eyes up to the second level and through all of this trash to kind of find that looper. Does a good job right there, gets his hands inside and controls the defensive tackle. 31 goes inside. All right, I know Christian Harris is going to be coming. And it's just effortless. I'm going to pass it to my guard. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to have a good time. And I'm just going to position myself to not allow this player to disrupt the passing game. Now, this one's different. Instead of a tackle end, this is a end. It would be a tackle, even though it's a linebacker blitzing. But Cross really kind of has to react very quickly here because he gets back into his set and he sees that this player isn't coming. He sees this player is about to put a lot of weight right here. So he's either going to go inside and try to slant into the B gap, or this is a stunt coming from that linebacker. So Cross, you can see here, he's still kind of processing it, quickly processes it, sees the guy coming in, picks him up, and then just positions himself in front of him. You love to see that. It's good positioning. It's quick firing brain right there. It's a quick firing brain. That's somebody who processes information well. At least in the stunt portion of this. From the film that I saw, these 4 games. Definitely did a good job at it. Here, number 4 kind of takes a hard angle right in. He doesn't even really make too much contact. Just kind of assists him. Knows that his guard is ready. Takes the looping defensive tackle. Again, quickly anticipates this. He sees 4, puts a lot of weight right here. Go inside. He's already coming to the penetrator. Takes him. Well executed protection right there. Texas A&M. But, that didn't work. Here's one by Alabama. This one comes all the way from the opposite side here. So you're going to have the nose slant inside. 31's going to kind of set up, draw the protection in here, allow him to penetrate, and then loop all the way around. So this isn't even somebody who is in Cross's count. He sees 8 right here, doesn't come, so he's probably not even accounting for him, but he's looking through all this traffic and kind of sees 31 come. He's like, all right, I'll just open my hips, take him, and then ride him up the pass rushing arc. Look at the placement, center mass, small back, get out of here, mirror, match, great stuff. defensive lineman, a little bit more power. He's able to position himself and anchor down. There's a ton of plays like this on his film, and he does a really good job in these situations. And now we get to see, or maybe I should phrase it, we have the pleasure of seeing Charles Cross in space absolutely annihilating smaller defenders. He's very, very athletic and has great location skills, as we'll see right there. See, Cross is right here. This is going to be bubble screen to the number 2 receiver in a 3-by-1 set, and Cross just ear holes this dude, man. We'll see it from this angle now. This is a much smaller defender, obviously, but still. Look at that short area quickness and that pursuit right into the block. Annihilates the dude. That's just a look at me type of moment. See something similar here. Now, that's great positioning. He's going to drive the dude out of the play. Let's see it again. You see him right here. He's going to allow 13 to step down. And his target is right here. Now look, there's space in between them. Cross is able to athletically get himself to this outside shoulder, makes contact right there. So his head is on the opposite end of on the inside part of the ear hole of this linebacker, but he's still able to get those hips inside and seal them. So that's what you want. You want the hips inside and hinge yourself, seal this linebacker away from the path of the wide receiver. And that's exactly what happens. There's another screen against Kentucky. He's just able to position himself inside, just take number 3 out of the play. Now we're going to see Charles Cross on a lot of these, and I feel like he was better on the backside. A lot of these plays are him as a backside blocker, just basically trying to scoop 4 techniques and 4 eyes, and that's a difficult task for the backside guard to do, especially because they have inside leverage. And we see Cross right here do that against number 4 from Kentucky. Again, a talented pass rusher. And you don't like to see that penetration. We don't get to see the initial part of the play. But he's trying to bring that near hip of his, Charles Cross, through the far hip of the pass rusher right here. And he's able to be effective enough to allow the running back to kind of string the path a little bit wide. It's not perfect, but then he boxes him out here, and you can see how he kind of rips his inside arm underneath the inside arm of number 4 there. He lifts it up first and then kind of positions himself to just eliminate number 4 from the play, which is kind of all you can ask for in a lot of these situations. It doesn't look great. It might be a little bit unorthodox, but look, inside leverage right here, 4-eye technique. So he has to cover ground here and take the angle to get his hips in front, his hip right here, the near hip, in front of this hip right here. Or you can call this the near hip, depends on what is your reference point. I'm referencing the tackle himself. So he's trying to get this hip to this hip. And that's difficult. And your aiming points are low. You want to aim low. You want to aim towards the thighs, because that's the way you can win leverage. And you can see how he dips himself there. He overextends himself a little bit, but he has to, because it's a difficult position. It's a difficult block to execute. And he's able to position himself enough to get that outside shoulder initially underneath the outside shoulder of the pass rusher, and then lift up to throw off his center of gravity and allow for a cutback. Ideally, you do not want this player to penetrate the B gap right there, but this is a very difficult block for Charles Cross, and he's able to pull it off enough to allow for there to be an alley for the running back to kind of cut back off of. Here we go again, 67. You can see how he kind of uses his outside arm, twists his body, uses his outside arm to get underneath the inside arm, and then just lifts up. It just gets in the way. Kind of boxes out like a basketball player. You don't really want to turn your back too often, but this is on a backside of a play. You're just trying to eliminate this player, and he's able to do that pretty effectively. And you're going to have the 4-eye. He's going to crash inside, and then he's just going to box out like that. Might be a little bit unorthodox, right? He doesn't run through and stay square. He's trying to remove that player from having an opportunity. Again, his goal is to get that hip through this hip, scoop him out, not allow him to affect the running back's path. Here we go again, having a lot against Kentucky. And number 4 is quick off the snap, as you will see. He's quick off the snap. He's able to alter it, but Charles Cross does enough to allow for a cutback lane and a solid gain where it puts 23 against this defender right here to contain on the backside of a play. You see this a lot throughout his film, these types of blocks. Again, 4-eye. Make contact with the outside shoulder, And then kind of just position yourself in a very unorthodox manner to box him out and not allow him to make an impact on the play. Again, this one, he kind of drives the defender off the line a little bit, kind of gets that outside arm inside and pushes back, pushes back, pushes back. He starts to turn his back a little bit, but he has the position and the leverage, and he's effectively eliminating the player from the play. Now we have Cross right here. Backside, takes on Johnson. Finishes him to the deck right there. Johnson's feet might have got tangled up. But this one is a little bit different. He takes his inside arm, punches right to the midpoint, Johnson's chest, and he's a little sloppy. He's a little high here, but he's going to bring that outside arm and just kind of ride the outside shoulder right there. He's not going to get called for holding there. It's all within his frame, even though it's outside of the shoulder here. It's not wild, and Johnson is in no position to kind of separate to make it look like it's a hold. It just drives him down to the ground to allow for an almost touchdown run. Again, this old miss. Box the player out. Gets to the outside shoulder. Gets his hip outside of this player's hip. Boxes out. Gets in the way. Now those were backside blocks, zone type of system, and I feel like he's an effective blocker in that area. Now technically he might not always be refined, I guess you can say, but he's effective because he's very athletic. He has all the agility in the world, great foot speed, and he has the range to keep up with a lot of these athletic second-level defenders. But on the play side, you need strength, and this is a good rep from him, but this is also a power gap type of play where Charles Cross's job is to pin this 4-eye technique. It's going to be a pin-pull concept, so he's going to pin. The guard is going to pull around him, and this is not something that Mississippi State or any air raid team runs all too often, but this is one play of it. You'll see here, great hips, strikes, and watch how he just strikes, kind of jolts, use that initial pop to throw this defender in the direction away from the path of the ball, and then just flips his hips, hinges him outside, puts him to the deck for a second. Inside arm, right on the breastplate, outside arm, outside shoulder. Drops him like that. Good execution right there from Charles Cross. We have him right here. And this is just an double team block, initial ace block. Then number 32 tries to undercut the run. Guard comes off. And then it's on Cross to the play side to just hold Johnson in place. And you can see how he's holding that outside shoulder a little bit. That's not inside. That could get called. And I feel like that's an issue, as I've said, for Cross. But you can see how strong his grips are, how his grip strength is, and how he's pulling Johnson towards him, not allowing any space to separate. And then while he's doing that, he's keeping his feet moving. He's moving his hips with the path of the running back to not allow Johnson to kind of separate and make a play on the football. That's a good play right there. Here we go right here against 7, guy who gave him a lot of trouble. He does a good job here. Now 7 kind of pushes him back a little bit, gets chest to chest. Then you can see how Cross torques his body a little bit. You can see how he's kind of using that inside arm to pull 7 down and not allowing him to separate to the outside. Then he repositions himself and just kind of drives with number 7 right there, allows the running back to have a chance. And the guy ends up kind of getting in the tackle here, but initially this is solid from Cross. And you would like to see, a more aggressive finish of the play, but he gives the running back the paths. Just blocks out here are not good enough, and there's a lot of defenders in the area. Here, right here, Charles Cross, 4-eye. It's a good combo up to the linebacker. Little deuce block right there. Love those combo blocks. Deuce, guard tackle, ace, center guard. Good teamwork. Combination between the guard and the tackle. Both going to make contact there. Cross has his eyes on this linebacker right here, number 44, who's probably just following this running back. Comes off the combo, takes him, washes him out of the play. Cross right here against 47. Again, play side block. Makes the hand placement right underneath the armpit. Kind of leans into it a little bit. Has that outside hand in good position to kind of just steer and turn the defender away from the play. These are all solid run blocking reps right here. And now, We're going to see not so solid reps, or just reps that are a little bit sloppy and stuff that you don't necessarily love to see. A lot of power issues, and those are kind of my overall problems with Cross as a prospect. Is in a pro style type of system, is he going to have the kind of pop and the power at the point of attack to consistently move veteran defensive linemen who aren't college players? And that's still a question for me. Here, takes kind of a false step, it looks like. The angles are everything in football, and you wanna be very determined and precise with your steps. I don't feel like that was always the case. It looks like that could be a false step right there from Cross, just kind of unnecessary. You want to position yourself instead of taking that extra step and one step to position your hips to get yourself into the optimal position to make this block. Instead, wide hands, comes low to high. 13 is able to get his length inside of Cross, and then he jolts him back right there. 13 kind of leans to the outside to try and spill this running back's path to secondary, contain, and force defenders. And 13 also just kind of falls off this block. Now, I feel like Cross has excellent grip strength, but it's something I haven't seen too much of as a run blocker, which is surprising. And I think it's maybe because these defenders will react really well to the running back's path and try to separate themselves from Cross. Cross never really gets a clean look at this individual right here, but he doesn't sustain blocks too well. Like, that block is not sustained well, and it's not going to be the only one you see right here. Guy just kind of twirls off of it and is able to make a play. Here we have Cross right here against Alabama. And look, he has the same position. He has that torque that we like. He's steering. But 18 just kind of shifts his body right into the running back's path. This isn't terrible, but it does show maybe a lack of some functional strength right there. The guard is pulling around. You want to be able to pin this player, and this player is able to kind of use his strength and his lower leg drive to kind of win the leverage battle and then put himself into a position to make that tackle, along with plenty of his teammates. Got Cross here, takes on 47, a defensive lineman, and he just can't handle him right here. And this is another 4-eye. This is going to be an outside run. Again, you have the guard coming around. Play side block for Charles Cross. You can see how 47 gets that hand right there on the inside shoulder, so he has control, has the other hand on the outside shoulder, and Cross just slides off. Cross never is able to get his grasp on number 47. You can see, look how wide his punches are right here, kind of coming around. He never frames this block all that well. You would like him to kind of step out more. The angle of attack here on the 4-eye, knowing it's an outside run, an outside pitch that is not optimal. Here we have him again against 47. 47 jolts him backwards a little bit. See? Right there. Cross comes low. Leans into it just a little bit. 47 keeps his elbows really, really tight. Allows Cross to make that contact, but then he just benches him off his frame. Peeks around the outside, sees the path is going inside, and then works his way back inside to help make a play. Now, Cross is able to hold up just long enough here, and this running back was able to run through the arm tackle. But you don't see the dominating type of player you want like you do with Akeem Ekwonu in the running game. That's not who Charles Cross is. Again, against Kentucky, 13, somebody struggled with a little bit earlier. Draws a penalty right there because 13 who's on the edge here. You have Cross kind of taking flat lateral step to him. 13 gets his hands on Cross before Cross can get his hands on him. And now the running back's path is going wide. 13 is able to separate because Cross isn't in a position to stop him. 13 is using his own length to kind of bench Cross backwards. Gets his eyes on the running back's path. And then he starts flowing in that direction. Cross has to hold him. Does just that. Penalty flag comes out. Here's him against Christian Harris. And now the run might have been coming into the B gap initially, but it doesn't end up going that way. And Cross kind of gets pulled by Christian Harris there, the contained defender. Pulls him that way. And it's just Cross never gets his hands cleanly on the individual. Harris sees the play. Look, Harris can just work his way backwards. Now you see Cross just completely overextended and not in a great position to execute this block. Allows Harris to kind of come off of it to make a play on the football. Here we have Charles Cross this way now. And now this is just a backside cut attempt. He's not attempting to get his hips to that hip. He's just trying to cut him. He sees right off the snap he can't. He's trying to cut him, and it was just an ineffective cut attempt. And a tackle by number 94 of Kentucky. Here we have Charles Cross again. And this was one where the 5 technique is going to slant inside. 8 is going to come around. Good vision, good processing, good awareness, instincts by Charles Cross to realize what's going on. Then he goes to pick up Christian Harris, hugs him, tonging. And I said that before, tonging. You know, when you're at those hotels and they give you the ice tongs and they're always like low quality. That's what a tong is. He's going around the ice. Tonging blocking is going around the defender instead of striking inside and establishing your presence. Tongs him. Christian Harris benches him off and then just works right back inside towards the running back. That's not ideal. Now, I like Charles Cross. We'll play this from a random point. I like Charles Cross. I think Charles Cross is an uber athletic player with all the coverage skills, really good hand technique, although he doesn't use it to dictate the rep initially. I think he has a good anchor. He can anchor down his feet, his hips, his agility, his change of direction, all of those things. They check all the boxes. You love the patience, but the patience also gets him into trouble, which is an issue. I think I would like to see him to be a little bit more aggressive, have a more aggressive temperament if it was controlled and balanced, which I feel like is well within his abilities. As a run blocker, I had my concerns. Do I think that can be cleaned up? He's a young player. He's a redshirt sophomore. Yes. He doesn't have a lot of experience run blocking. I think he had 200 snaps run blocking in 2021 and like 140 something maybe in 2020. It's not a lot. It's an air raid system. It's not a pro style type of system. All of those are concerns. But not a lot of tackles can move and have the length and even some of the refined technique that we went over that Charles Cross has. And that's why he's being discussed as a top 15 pick. I think he'll be a first round pick. And I haven't extensively studied Evan Neal or Akimi Kwanu yet. I will get there, and there will be videos on this YouTube page about that. I'm expecting to like them better than Charles Cross, but I can definitely see why Charles Cross is being talked about as a first-round pick. There's a lot to like here, even from a processing standpoint, but you need some of the technique to improve, as we went over, and the questions about functional strength in the run game I feel like are fair. Ultimately, they may not end up hindering his career whatsoever, but you could see how there were some issues when he was the play side blocker, and that's something that has to be addressed. Alrighty, everybody, this is Nick Filato. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please head on over to Big Blue View, check out all of our content on the podcast feed, on the YouTube here, and also on the site through the written form of communication. Everybody, please have a lovely one and take care.